Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Lefty's Place. Welcome back, everyone. We are back for some more Miami Heat content. They are officially in the they've been in the Eastern Conference Finals, waiting for who they're going to be playing. And now we know that they're going to be going up against the Boston Celtics. And this is going to be a tough battle. I said it in the preview of the playoffs that if there was any team that I didn't want to face, it was the Boston Celtics, because I felt like we matched up, kind of bad against them. But honestly, we don't know, because we got obviously Jay Crowder and Andre Iguodala midway through the season, and we've only played one game with them in the roster, and we won that game. It was in the bubble, but I don't really like to look at regular season. But overall, what we're going to do in today's episode, or what we're going to talk about, is the Heat's journey to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then we're going to talk about how we match up against the Boston Celtics. So let's get right into it. Talking about the first round matchup, taking on the Indiana Pacers. The Heat just, looked absolutely dominant. They went 4-0 against them. They had a net rating of about 9 points. The average margin of victory was 9 points. So, that's absolutely dominating the competition. And they were very solid in pretty much all aspects. They averaged about 17 assists per game, or about 18 assists per game. Very strong numbers there, and honestly, defensively, they held them to about 104 points per game. So I know that Indiana Pacers team was missing Sabonis, a healthy Victor Oladipo, but honestly, Brogdon played better than pretty much anybody expected, and we still dominated them. So that's what happened in that Indiana Pacers series. And now for the Milwaukee Bucks series. That was another domination. We beat them by an average of about 6 points. Even with the loss, we averaged about a little over 18 assists per game, so we were still passing the ball very well, which is, pretty much a staple for this team, as we should know throughout the season. They're super unselfish and, hardworking, and they rely on everybody. Every single player on the team is important and, vital to what we do and our success. So, the best thing I loved about this series between the Milwaukee Bucks was how we were able to game plan, for Giannis, of course, and pretty much keep him what am I trying to say here? Just having him unaffected in the game, not really helping out the Milwaukee Bucks at all, because as we saw towards the end of the series, with him out of the lineup, we actually played better. Oh, someone made a debut appearance, or an appearance in my show, a little summer, and that was the story of it. The Milwaukee Bucks' MVP, the MVP of the season, was just ineffective against us because of the way that Eric Spoelstra planned, for him, and pretty much just took him out of the game. He couldn't do whatever he wanted. It's going to be a bit tougher to do that against the Boston Celtics because of the amount of wing offensive and just straight up attacking players that they have with Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and obviously now we got Marcus Smart, who's playing out of his mind. And it's possible that they're getting Gordon Hayward back. But the thing that I do like for our chances against the Boston Celtics is that we have so much more depth than them. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest key to us, that our bench play has to be at way better than what the Boston Celtics have, because they're bringing out guys like Wanamaker, Grant Williams, with a Robert Williams as well. Like they have some players. I mean, obviously if Gordon Hayward comes back, you see Marcus Smart in that bench as well. But with what we have to offer, with Tyler Hero having easily the best stretch of his season, you got Kendrick Nunn, who looked pretty solid in the Milwaukee Bucks series. Not sure if he'll be used too much. I think we might see a little more DJJ in this series. But you also got Kelly Olynyk. You got Andre Iguodala. Our bench is very, very good, and it's easily one of our biggest strengths. And so we'll have to be relying on that throughout the series. Now, I want to talk about kind of like how we played against the Boston Celtics during the regular season. And as we should know, we lost 2 of the 3 games, with the one game that we won being in the bubble. We looked very solid in that game, especially without Jimmy Butler. We were playing very well. But in those 2 losses, we just look outmatched. I went to one of those games at the AAA, and I mean, just the way all those wing players can get switched onto Jimmy, it just kind of felt like we had no answers for them, especially on the offensive end, when those guys are just like moving the ball around like crazy, and anybody on that team can shoot. And then of course you got Kemba Walker, who maybe we can take a little play out of the Raptors playbook, a little strategy out of the Raptors playbook with how they guarded Kemba Walker and pretty much made him ineffective in this series, because our guard defenders are not good. I mean, Goran Dragic has been killing it on the offensive end, but we all know that he's not a plus defender. Same thing with Kendrick Nunn. He's got a little more athleticism, but in terms of like the defensive IQ, it's just not there. So we're going to have to rely on a lot of help defense to cover that point of attack with Kemba Walker. And the one that really scares me, obviously, is Jason Tatum. When you look at the way he played against us during the regular season, he was a plus 16 in the 2 games that he played. He didn't play every game. He didn't play in one of the wins that his team had. He played in the bubble and then another game during the season. He averaged 21 points against us on 40% shooting, so it's not that good. I mean, but to be a plus 16 just shows that he was doing other things. I mean, he had a steal and 2 blocks per game, so he was very effective against us. So should be noted that one of those games was without Jay Crowder and Andre Iguodala, and those 2 are obviously going to get looks against him. I feel like Jay Crowder is going to probably draw that assignment first. However, I feel like Andre Iguodala is going to be a much more effective player against Jaylen Brown because of how smart he is on that end and his hands. I've said this so many times. I feel like Andre Iguodala has probably one of the best hands in the NBA. With the way Jason Tatum likes to dribble the ball, get a couple looks, especially when he's shooting the 3 ball. He brings it up, and I can so see Iggy getting his hands on that a couple times. Probably going to get a foul once or twice because that's happened in the playoffs, but I'll take that with him making Jason Tatum uncomfortable, because that's what we need. We need to make this rising superstar uncomfortable if we are to make it into the NBA Finals. And another one that kind of gets me worried is that Daniel Theis. He's not the household name out of this group, but he played very well against us. He averaged just under 10 points, was about just under 9 rebounds per game. Nothing crazy, but he was a plus 11 against us. And that means that he was winning those matchups against Bam Adebayo, and that just cannot happen. We need Bam Adebayo to be possibly the best player in this series, and he was Bam Adebayo was a -3 in the 3 games that he played, in all 3 games. So that cannot happen. If that happens, we will lose this series. Bam Adebayo needs to dominate that matchup because they're not going to put a lot of big guys on there. They're not going to have a Brook Lopez that's going to shut down the paint. I understand that with him being such a force in the paint, blocking, he was the second team all defense this year. Bam was a little hesitant to get inside. That cannot happen in this series. He needs to be aggressive. He needs to get his touches down low and look for that mid-range shot. He was hitting it really well, especially late in that Milwaukee Bucks series. And if he can have the confidence to shoot that at any point, that's going to be huge for us. Because if he can give us that offense, where he's making buckets, everything else will obviously be there because it always is. He's going to be rebounding for us. He's going to be one of the best, if not the best, playmaker on our team, and his defense is obviously going to be there as well. He averaged just under a block and a steal per game, about 10 rebounds, and what was it, 15 points per game on 50% shooting against the Boston Celtics. Not terrible numbers, but those are pretty much around his season average, a little bit lower than his season average. So he needs to take it to another level. Just like Shaq says, you know, at TNT, when you are, you know, in the playoffs and you want your team to advance, you need to increase those numbers. I don't care if it's a lot to ask of you. You need to increase those numbers. So expect Bam Adebayo, you know, and I'm sure that he's got guys like Jimmy and Iggy and UD telling him that he needs to be aggressive in this series if we are to advance. So expect that from him. No doubt about it. I mean, he does what he needs to do for our team to win. I mean, I understand the way he was talking during the Indiana Pacers series that like, people now telling me when and you know where I need to shoot the ball, and in the end, he just needs to be more aggressive. It's fine if he doesn't need to shoot the ball, but he needs to be aggressive on that end. Another thing that really worries me is that Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler were both very ineffective against the Boston Celtics. And I'm not really surprised, because those are two guys that thrive with the ball in their hands and you know, making plays off the dribble. And with all of the wing players and wing defenders that they can toss out at both of those guys, you know, Marcus Smart being one of them. I mean, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they're not terrible defenders. And obviously Gordon Hayward, if he comes back, I mean, he's just another big body that you can send at him. Ojale is another guy. Obviously he's off the bench, but still, it's another big body that you can send at either one of those two, you know, top scorers on our team. And obviously Goran Dragic. However, Dragic actually was pretty solid against the Boston Celtics.
All right, it's just for your litter right now.
It's fine. So continuing about Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic, or Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero, I mean, they had a lot, you know, the Boston Celtics obviously have a lot of bodies that they can send at them. So it's not surprising that they both had a negative 10 and then negative 13 plus minus against the Boston Celtics. Tyler Hero played in all 3 games, and Jimmy Butler played in the 2 losses. Like I already said, he wasn't playing in that 1 win. However, he did shoot well against them. He averaged 28.5 points. Jimmy Butler averaged 28.5 points per game against them on 53% shooting and 43% from 3. So those are obviously great numbers. However, he wasn't very effective, obviously, on the floor in some areas, because to be negative 10 in the plus minus, that's not a good number. Though that's the number that really matters. And Jimmy will say the same thing. He can put up all the numbers in the world, but if he's not winning the game or if he's not contributing to his team, then it doesn't really matter. So we're obviously going to need to see those numbers, but with some actual positivity on the court. And Dragic, same thing. He played really well against the Boston Celtics as well. He averaged about 22 points per game against them on about 46% shooting and 3.5 assists. And he had a positive, plus minus, but it was just 1, nothing crazy, but still, that's solid. And you hope to see that in this series, because the way he's been playing throughout these playoffs has been great. It was a little concerning to see him kind of slow down a bit towards the end of that Milwaukee Bucks series, which is great that now he's getting this rest between the Milwaukee Bucks series and the Eastern Conference Finals, because he's averaging a lot of minutes during the playoffs. He's averaging well over 30, maybe even 35, close to 35 minutes per game in the playoffs, and that's a lot for a guy his age. I know age is only a number, as Goran Dragic says, but he's very important to us. So we need to preserve him, make sure that he's, at 100% heading into this series, because he's going to be very important. And like I was saying with Tyler Hero, he's also extremely important. He did not play well against the Boston Celtics during the regular season. He averaged just 7 points per game on 29% shooting, and 26 or 27% from 3. Those are not Tyler Hero numbers. And I do not expect that at all heading into this series, because the way he's been playing, he shows that he can do more than just score the ball. So if they focus on him too much, he'll hurt them in other ways. So I'm not really worried about Tyler Hero in that sense. Just the fact that, you know, he was almost a minus 14 and plus minus throughout those 3 games. That is not good. He needs to, and his advanced numbers aren't very good. They haven't been good all season, so it's, you know, he needs to get better there. They have improved during this playoff run, which makes me feel like, you know, we have a star in the making here. But he needs to improve there. He needs to have, you know, a big time role for us in this series if we're to advance, because he has been lights out. And whenever, one thing that I noticed about him, whenever the Heat are, you know, bogged down, their offense kind of gets slowed down and you know, gets ineffective, you toss him in there, you give him the ball, and, you know, he just makes things happen. And that's a big time X factor. So we're gonna need to hope that he is on the top of his game. And another guy that I feel needs to step up is Duncan Robinson. He played well against them in the regular season, averaged almost 4 3-pointers made per game on 40% shooting, 14 points per game, and was a plus 4.3 against them in the regular season. Those are good numbers, but during the playoffs, I haven't really seen much from him. I've seen a little bit too much hesitation. I know guys are obviously eyeing on him because of how effective he is from the 3-point line and how effective he is for our offense. But the way he was playing late in the regular season and in the bubble specifically, during the seeding games, you know, he was using the defense against them. Like he was just seeing what they were doing, and he would, you know, passing it into Bam Adebayo when they would commit to him, and that would open things up for the rest of the team. So we need to see a more aggressive Duncan Robinson in this series. You know, put up a couple threes. You know, even if it's you know, not completely contested, but even if it's like lightly contested, like to mid contested, he needs to put those threes up, because more likely than not, he's still going to make them. And if anything, it's going to make the defense commit to him even further. So that guy is super important to what we do. We need to see more from him in these playoffs if we are to advance. I know I'm saying that for everybody, but it's the fact. I mean, you don't make it into the NBA Finals if you don't have all your players clicking on all cylinders. And another player, actually, these two guys are vital to what we're going to be doing against the Boston Celtics. I've already talked about Andre Iguodala, but then also Jay Crowder, 2 guys that we picked up mid-season. Their only game against the Boston Celtics for us was in that win in the bubble, which is encouraging, which shows that this new team that we have, where it's like, you know, complete all switching, obviously hurts the Celtics. And I need to reiterate that we did not have we did not have Jimmy Butler in that game that we won. So I'm very excited for this series. I'm excited to see what we can do. And obviously, I can't forget to mention Kelly Olynyk. I mean, I feel like he's going to have a lot of opportunities to, you know, really hurt this Boston Celtics team, because just the way he can bring up the ball up the floor, you know, how crafty he is inside. I feel like that'll definitely put a lot of pressure on a guy like Daniel Theis, who is kind of experienced, but compared to Kelly Olynyk, he is not. And more likely than not, or more often than not, Kelly Olynyk does well against those kind of matchups. You know, I mean, he played well against Brook Lopez in the Milwaukee Bucks series, and I feel like the same will be done here in this series. How did he do against the Celtics? He actually did not do well against the Celtics, though. He was a -7 in the 2 games. He did play in the win. He did average 13.5 points on about 42% shooting, 25% from 3. That's not good, but I don't expect the same in these Eastern Conference Finals. I feel like Eric Spoelstra, that's a big X factor as well. The way he, you know, game plans for these teams, and with all the time he's had to game plan for them, I feel like that is huge. And you know, I feel like you won't see as big of a series from Jason Tatum. If you do, this will be a very hard series for the Heat to pull out. And in terms of predictions, when I was talking earlier, you know, during the Miami Heat preview, I did say that the Celtics would defeat us in the Eastern Conference Finals if it ever came down to it. And I did kind of predict that. I believe I did. I predicted that we could possibly make it past Milwaukee, which I didn't expect us to, you know, completely dominate them. But I did kind of feel like we could do it. But then when it came to the Boston Celtics, I felt like we were not, equipped personnel-wise to really handle everybody that they have. But they don't have a really strong bench. I mean, I've known this, but just to be consistent, I still think that the Celtics would probably win this series. I know as a Heat fan, it really hurts to say that. And you know what? Forget that. The Miami Heat are going to win this series. I don't know what I'm talking about. The Miami Heat are winning this series in 7 games. It's going to go 7 games. If it's any less than 7 games, I'll be disappointed because I just don't want to lose to the Celtics. I don't want to lose to the Celtics because, their trajectory is like super good. I mean, with those young players that they have and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, those 2 guys look like studs. I mean, obviously Jason Tatum, I don't even have to say about, but I mean the way Jaylen Brown has been playing, every now and then it just feels like he is the calming force for that Celtics offense. And of course Marcus Smart, that guy, the do-it-all guard, that the scrappy guard. He can do whatever you want him to, and now he's hitting threes nonstop. It's gonna be a tough series to win, but if anybody can do it, it's our Miami Heat, guys. I mean, we are gonna go into this series, feeling like we deserve to be here. That plain and simple, we deserve to be here, and we can do it. We can do it. So I'm excited. I've said that already plenty of times. The game is going to be. I'm recording this Sunday. This is out Monday. So the game is, when you guys are watching this, the game is officially tomorrow. So I'm super hyped to watch this. I've been dying to get this series going, and game 1's a big one. It's going to be a statement game. If the Miami Heat can win game 1, you're going to hear a lot of talk of, damn, this team can make it happen, because we have looked so dominant in these playoffs. So yeah, man, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this Eastern Conference Finals preview. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe for any future videos, any more Miami sports content. I know mainly this is a lot of Miami Heat content, but that's my favorite team. They have been since I was little, so deal with it. But yeah, have a great day, guys.